Welcome back to the Sacred Arts channel, where we talk about all things from the sacred to the practical. I'm so excited today to talk to photographer Melissa Yushchenko. She is a self-portrait photographer focusing mainly on a boudoir style photography and reconnecting with ourselves through sensual embodiment. Melissa teaches how to use self-portraits for self-discovery, connection, and full expression. Welcome, Melissa.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. I'm really excited to dive into this because, I see this as a form of self-love and going deeper into like development and getting to know ourselves, which I'm a huge proponent of that. Can you share a little bit about your journey, and how you got to this place and, just capturing photos of others? How did you get into the self-portraiture?
So I think for a lot of people, we all had pivots during the pandemic. So I actually had a retreat planned that I was going to go and photograph, kind of like in January, and then came back from that on this high of like, that was amazing. I'm so excited for like all the rest that I'm going to do this year. And then March hit, and that just went like, okay, that's obviously not happening. And I really just stopped working with people because I had to. And I hadn't touched my camera for months, and I just wasn't inspired to like be a photographer, because my usual things were not there for me. Um, and one morning I just woke up and I had this feeling, this like creative fire in me that I had to just take pictures of myself. And I'd never experienced that before. I didn't really take self-portraits. I didn't even like being in front of the camera before. So this was a totally new feeling, but it was such a powerful urge that I couldn't ignore it. So I just spent the morning taking self-portraits in my tiny, like 400 square foot apartment. um, and kind of immediately after that, I had this feeling that like, okay, that wasn't just a one-time thing. Like this is actually something. And so that session was kind of completely unplanned. And then I had my first planned session where I had this vision in my head that I actually brought to life. And I was like, wow, I was just like blown away that I brought this thing to life. And it was this vision I had of myself. Um, and that was new for me because I hadn't really had visions for myself like that. Like I would see, something I wanted to create in the world and kind of go do that. But to create my own image of me, it was different. And then I kept doing that, and I kept just like pushing my own boundaries, and sharing images that did feel a little bit uncomfortable to share, but I knew um, that the act of sharing it was growth for me. So I kept doing that, and
I
I still
mean,
do it.
yeah, I mean, the way you light up when you talk about it, it sounds like it was such an empowering thing to do. Can you go a little bit into how did that session impact like your own self-perception and understanding of
Mhm.
yourself?
Just massively. Oh my gosh. In one word, massively. But to go a bit more into detail, I think especially as I mean, everyone in society, but especially as women, we're always looking at ourselves through other people's eyes. We're constantly aware of how we're perceived, that we are being perceived, that people expect us to look and act and show up a certain way. And I think we rarely get time or take time to actually just look at ourselves, um, through our own eyes. And self portraits really give you the space for that because, I mean, like you can book a photography session with a photographer. Um, and that can be great and empowering and super fun, but there's still a person behind the camera, and you may not know them very well, or you may know them really well, and but either way you're aware that there's a person there. And subconsciously that can affect like how you feel about yourself. But when
Mhm.
you are your own observer and you're capturing your own photos, you can kind of just like drop the layers, drop the mask, drop whatever it is you're holding on to that you think you need to do. And there's no pressure to actually share anything. Nobody ever has to see them. So you can be like, quote unquote, weird, whatever, wacky, whatever you think that is, like whatever you kind of stop yourself from doing when you're around other people. You have permission to do that when you're on your own.
I love that message
Yeah.
because as you were saying that, I remember right before my wedding, I did like boudoir photos, and I look so stiff and so unnatural in those photos because I didn't know the person behind the camera. Even though it was a woman, like I just wasn't feeling comfortable, and my sister was there and she was trying to get me to be comfortable and just wasn't happening. So I really love the idea of encouraging this message of taking self portraits and tapping into your creativity around that, and also like going deeper and kind of doing this self discovery through photography. That's really beautiful.
Mm-hmm. It's super powerful. So I'm biased, but like highly recommend to everyone.
Yeah, no, I could totally see it. How, in what ways has like self-portrait served like as a tool for like uncovering hidden aspects of yourself and
Mm.
basically embracing that evolution of your growth?
Yeah. So a big one for me was this like this sexuality, this like sexual expression, not necessarily like being super like open in public, like to people I don't know. That's not necessary, but actually accepting that this part of me was there, and that it wanted expression somehow. Um, and so some of the actually first photos I was sharing, like if you were to scroll back in my feed and you look at the very first few self portraits, you would probably not think they're like anything wild or too like risque. But when I was sharing those, it felt terrifying. Like there were some that I was just like trembling as I'm like typing the caption. But I knew that like I wanted to share it, and I knew I had this sort of like internal need to share it because it was a part of me, and it felt that I needed to like put it out there to just like give it space because I had acknowledged it within myself, and it was like, okay, now it's just gotta put it out in the world. And so the photos are just like more obviously like visually boudoir style, and that was really scary for me to put out there. But in embracing that, that actually, like, I put it out there, nothing bad happened. I was terrified I was going to be like excommunicated from my family, or like no one was going to talk to me. Like, nothing bad happened. People were like, wow, like, I see that you look really confident and like love that, like, love seeing your journey, like, do more. I was like, oh, okay, like, why was why was I terrified? But
Yeah, those are like the stories, the real
yeah.
stories that we tell ourselves, and that fear creeps up. So I'm so happy that you were like, even though you felt the fear, you still did it. And
Mhm.
how empowering is that? And it just fills up this like part of ourselves that where we're able to like tap into that love, tap into like that confidence, because other people are kind of validating that as well. Not to say
Mhm.
that we should always do that, but it does give us a little bit more of that confidence, right?
Yeah, and the decision to post came with the acceptance that something bad might happen. I
Mm,
might get negative comments, and like I still have to do this. And I'm going to
it
be
is what it
okay.
is. Yeah.
Like I've got me. At the end of the day, like it's not about what they think. Like of course I want
Yeah.
positive feedback. Like everyone wants that. But like at the end of the day, it was really kind of about like releasing that need for external validation
Mm.
and just saying like I love this photo and I want to share this photo, and if the people that are in my life decide that this isn't for them, like then maybe that's how it needs to be.
Yeah, for sure. That's so awesome. Thank you for sharing that. This seems like a little bit of like a ceremony. It's very ceremonious. It's very like self-care-ish, right? How does this self-care act of embodied self-reflection through the self-portrait photography align with like your teachings on connection to self and intuition?
Hmm. So it's a big part of it is actually like dedicating time to yourself. And I say this all the time, like it doesn't have to be self-portraits. But self-portraits give you like a structure. They give you a framework to actually piece together like all of the things that you might want anyway around you, but that you just like you don't actually give that much attention to because like you don't have time, you're too busy, whatever, it's not that important. Like, so if you're creating a self-portrait, like bringing a vision to life, you have this image that you want to create, you need to curate what that looks like. And you need to curate the space for yourself, the mood for yourself, and you need to carve out time to do that. So you're giving yourself all of these things that you need that you might not otherwise because you're like putting it towards this vision that you have. So an example is like maybe you're someone who really likes like luxurious textures and fabrics, but like
Mhm.
you don't have those like on your bed or on your couch or like wherever because it's too much. It's like too much of a hassle. But if you're creating a scene where maybe you're like, I don't know, something I've done for myself is like embodying like a goddess archetype. So if I'm doing that for myself, I'm putting those fabrics in there. I'm having the candles, I'm having, like aromas and scents, and I'm having like fresh fruit. I'm like spoiling myself. I'm like really romancing myself because I'm creating that scene, and it's sort of like in like contributing to this grander vision. And so like you're kind of bypassing your conscious mind that's like, I don't have time, it's too much, whatever, like, it's
Mhm.
just me, I don't need to do that. You're bypassing like that and like subconsciously giving all of those things to yourself because you're like it's for the image, like you'll do it for this experience. And then still like the outcome's the same. At the end of the day, you have given that to yourself. And the really magical part of self portraits is that you have a photo of that. You get to look back at yourself in that scene that you created. If it's a goddess, you get to see yourself as a goddess. If it's like bad boss bitch CEO, you get to do that too. You can see yourself in, the way you want to see yourself. And maybe that's still aspirational. Like maybe you're still manifesting that like, multi-million dollar business, who knows, whatever it is, but you can still see yourself that way. And that's powerful too.
I
I
love
went
that.
off on a total tangent there. I don't
No, that's beautiful because I think some of us, when we hear self-portrait, we think of a
Mhm.
selfie or whatever, but to set that scene and really treat it as if you're having a visitor come, and because a lot of the times we treat other people better than we treat ourselves. So
Mhm.
to think about like embodying a goddess or embodying, that boss, the boss babe, boss girl, you know, part of ourselves, and really seeing it as bringing that out, and thinking about like what we would do if that essence came through. Like I think that's beautiful. And then I love also what you said, like you then have that picture to go back and still be in that frequency and remember what that felt like. That's so
Mhm.
empowering. And so it's such a great technique because I think we all struggle with, oh, self-care, what does that look like? Get to know myself, what does that look like? And this is such a unique way to approach this. I love it. I
Mhm.
love it. I'm curious to know if you've had like any significant moments or revelations during your self portrait journey that, has enriched you, has given you like greater understanding or teachings on, the connection to yourself and your intuition.
I think It actually came when I wasn't taking self portraits. And um, I realized that I had kind of shut off that creative flow. I had shut off that channel of self connection. And I felt the impact of that in other places in my life. And so I had this realization that, like, oh, I had this practice. I like created this practice for a reason, and it was serving me really well. And for whatever, life reasons, I just sort of like more time went on before I had gone back to it. And I realized that, like, oh, I need to do this. And so that realization came of like when I actually just like I didn't do anything major. I was like, I just need to like, dust off the cobwebs and like just get back into like the mechanics of it. And even just doing that, like recognizing that giving to myself in this way does fill me up, does fuel me, and does allow me to feel like a more intuitive, creative person in other areas of my life. So kind of like, yeah, that pause from it and recognizing how important it had been in my life. Um, and then just like committing to getting back to it.
Yeah, for sure. Like anything else, right? We do the things that really bring us joy and all these things, and then we go back to like regular
Mhm.
life and it drops off. But really recommitting, that's a powerful message because by recommitting and not beating ourselves up that we've let something go is really important. And then coming back into that frequency, it can be even more powerful
Mhm.
in continuing to learn about ourselves and take care of ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And like the commitment to yourself and
Yeah,
whatever you need in that experience, committing to
exactly.
give it to yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I love how empowering this is. And you mentioned one of the challenges being that fear of sharing it with other people. Are there any other challenges that you've faced, in authentically expressing yourself through self portraits? And how did you address these challenges? Today's video is sponsored by BU Renewed, owned by Heidi Bayer.
It's
Mhm.
BU Renewed has three supplement systems. We have the Stay Sharp system, and everything is a set. So we have a morning formula, which is stage 1. We have an evening formula, and everything is designed. They're brain supplements, and they're designed to help with focus, clarity, brain fog, memory. Everything is combined in here. So when you are on the program, when you have a subscription, when you just buy the product and you use it, the outcome is outstanding as far as giving you greater clarity to know how you want to and how you can be the most productive in your day. So we have the well-being system, and our well-being system, we have our stage 1, which is the morning formula, and it's our stress support system. And then our stage 2 is our evening formula, which is the calm, kind of your sleep, getting the best rest. It's your reset. So all of this together is our, everything about anti-stress, anti-anxiety, helping to make you really feel the best that you can feel on a daily basis. All of the ingredients are organic, they're handpicked, and they're all listed on the website as well, so you can check. Everything is proprietary. It's all laid out. There are no hidden ingredients. Herbs are the finest. The vitamins are the finest, and the minerals as well. We have one more system, which is called the Age Well system. Age Well is that we have the morning formula, which is for mobility, joint, helping you to really be, kind of self-support, which is really big for me. And our evening formula, which is vitality, energy, focus, and again, mobility and joints. So all of it is related to the body. and to the spirit. So that's what I love about each and every system. Our products are really based on helping, and they work. And it's just everything that aligns you with your day to support your daily practice in what you eat, what you put into your body, what you do physically to help, whether it's yoga, whether it's walking or hiking. It's just a wonderful balance of all of who we are.
Go to burenewed.com today to get your first system and use code SACREDARTS20. Also, like, subscribe, and comment down below for a chance to win your first system today.
So censorship is one of them on social media. There were photos that are just, sort of more revealing or more sensual that do get reported or do get flagged, even though I, follow the guidelines, don't, do my best not to break any rules, but things will still get flagged. And struggling with just that tension between like the need to express something and share something that I've created, with this like requirement to also tone it down, which is what I had been doing my entire life anyway. I was
Right.
always toning myself down, and I was like always suppressing parts of myself because I don't know, I was shy and scared and like I wanted to be invisible. And so I was coming to this point in my life where I didn't want to be that anymore, and struggling with just like this giant creature of social media that I cannot battle. I cannot win. I think that's
None of us can.
there's nothing there's nothing I can do about that except just like accept that that's like, okay, I took this really awesome photo that I love, that other people love, that like is really incredible, and I have to take it down. And that's hard. And like like my own sort of self-censorship
Yeah.
that I was overcoming, and now being met with like actual in the world censorship has been and still continues to be a bit of a struggle. So
Yeah.
and that's just part of it. So
Well, thank you for sharing that, because that is so true. And it can be a bit of a challenge, but I think that there are ways that we can still share that, our self-portraits, right? And
yes,
have to
exactly.
necessarily be social media. Although social media is like the easiest way to get it out there, I think that there are different ways that we can do that as well.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely different channels, and also just like how can I express what I'm trying to say
yeah.
in a different way? Like, can I do that in a different way, and what would that look like? And so it's also just like a philosophical and creative question, and yeah, it's really great, really great to work.
Totally. What advice would you give, to people that are listening to this and are curious about incorporating self-portrait photography into their own self-reflection? How do we get started without feeling overwhelmed?
Yeah, so definitely easy to feel overwhelmed. You don't need fancy professional gear. Just my number one piece of advice for my students, people who come to me with questions, is just start with what you have. And probably everyone has a phone, and phones are like pretty good these days.
Yeah.
They pack a lot of technology into our tiny little hand devices. So just start with that. And the easiest way is just start with video. And I say to start with video often because when we're taking a photo, we think we have to mimic the end image we have in mind. But that makes us really stiff in our bodies because a photo is still, it's frozen in time, but we're human beings and we're constantly in motion. So knowing that it's video kind of gives you permission to have movement and to work with your natural inclination to move. And then to like kind of take stills. So that's kind of like the technical approach, like do a video and take stills and like start with that easy way. And sort of practically just start with like a 5-day commitment. Like I'm just going to take a selfie every day for 5 days. And then I'm going to write some notes about, what I was feeling during that time, or just reflect on it. If you already have a journaling practice, like don't change your journaling practice. That's great. You can just also add a photo, or not. You can just like take an image and leave it, like save it in a folder somewhere and go back to it later. But just start really small, and kind of build in a habit. If you are wanting to make this a practice, start small, 3 days, 5 days, and just see how you like it at the end of it.
I love that. That is like starting small and looking at how that shifts for us, right? And then we can grow it from there. I really love that piece of advice. You mentioned having students. Can you tell us a little bit about what you teach and what some of your offerings are?
Yeah, for sure. So I have a course that guides you through setting up your own practice, and then it also has like photography tips, like photography 101. So you're not just like thrown in to the deep end, not knowing what to do. And I have, lots of like tutorials and behind the scenes of my own shoots in there. So it's really about going into deep reflection and creating an embodied self-reflective practice of it. And it's self-paced. So, and growing, like I'm adding new things to it. As I see fit, essentially. And then I also do guided self-portrait sessions. So right now those are online, so they're not location independent or location dependent, but I would also do those in person. It's just easier to do them online and guide people through using what they have and giving them kind of like posing tips and lighting tips and how to use their space, things that do feel overwhelming when you're just brand new to it. So those are my offerings at the moment.
Yeah, that's so awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. Is there anything that we didn't cover today that you want to let our listeners know?
I think we covered a lot. Yeah, we covered
Yeah.
pretty much everything. Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure. Where can people stay in touch with you?
So I'm super active on Instagram at by Melissa Claire, and then all of my self-portrait offerings and blog is at theuncensoredself.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And all of those links will be linked down below. Thank you so much for coming and sharing your wisdom with us and this really creative new way, outside of the box way to, have some self-care for ourselves and get to know ourselves. This is really awesome. It's a great technique. I really appreciate that. And for those of you that are listening, if you enjoyed this episode or have any feedback, please comment down below, like, and subscribe. See you next week. Thank you so much.
Thank
That was really
you.
awesome. I really love how out of the box this technique is.
Mhm.
I never had thought about it, and I actually teach boundaries, and a lot of
Mm.
boundaries is about knowing yourself and having like a lot of self-love and a lot of like knowing
Mhm.
yourself so well you don't waver. And one of the homeworks is or home plays is to go out and figure out different techniques on how to pour love into yourself. And I'm
Mm.
definitely going to offer this podcast up
Amazing. Yeah.
because it's such a great out of the box tool to be able to like, okay, this is really simple and and you're right, most people have a phone and they can start off that way and really have
Mhm.
some really deep revelation. So thank you so much for sharing
Yeah.
your experience with us.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. And like boundaries is also a huge thing that comes out of it. Just because like you spend so much time with yourself in the process and learn like even just physically how your body is moving in front of a camera, you realize like, oh, I don't like moving that way. That's kind of like a boundary for me. Or like, I'm not currently around anybody and I'm just in my own space, my own energy. Like, how do I want to express myself? And like, where's
Mm.
the edge of that? Or like, it's, yeah, you need to like be in your own energy to know what your own boundaries feel like in your
It's so
body.
true.
So,
Yeah, no,
yeah.
it's so true. That's like the first 3 weeks of it. It's a 10-week course that I do. And that's like the first 3 weeks of me teaching
Mm.
energetics and being in like your own energy and figuring out what does that even feel like so that you can then know when something's encroaching on you, right? And
Mhm.
yeah, it's so I love that you just expressed that because it's such a real thing and it's really cool to have like the self-portrait and even like the videos because then you have like a little bit more self-awareness.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yep. It's a lot.
so
Yeah.
cool. I'm actually I want to try this.
Oh my gosh, please do. Yeah.
I love it.
If you
Well,
do,
thank
like, just let me know how it feels and what you like thought about it. That's
I
super fun.
absolutely will. And I'll follow you as well. And so what'll happen is I'm a little bit behind on editing and things like that. So I'm going to edit and then I'll send you an email in a couple weeks with the final. And I also add the links in my newsletter and all that good stuff. But I'll also tag you on Instagram if you can just reshare the
Yes,
episode, and
for sure.
that'd be really great.
Amazing. This has been really awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I hope you have a great weekend.
You too.
We'll stay in touch.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.